Hello, this is Mellisa from mellisadormois.com. Today I want to answer this question. What are we truly meant to learn from a narcissistic relationship? I think the answer is that we are truly meant to learn self-love. We get into narcissistic relationships because perhaps we're in a place in our lives where we're going through some type of challenge or change. Maybe our self-esteem isn't what it should be. We ignore red flags that narcissists send us. Usually within the first 6 months, you can already tell where that person is as far as pushing your boundaries, asking for too much, making demands on you, making you feel bad, not listening to you, not being respectful to you or your time. The important thing that a narcissist can teach us is that we need better boundaries, that we need to put our foot down, that we need to respect ourselves and our space. Narcissists often prey on people who are going through some type of challenge. They may be grieving over something. They may be going through a divorce or a separation or loss of some kind. And a narcissist sees this as an opportunity to step in. The difficult thing about being in a relationship with a narcissist is in the beginning, everything will seem so wonderful. It will seem so perfect, and this is what they want you to believe. As time goes on and the red flags appear and they show you more of their true selves, that's when it truly gets upsetting, and we might feel anxious inside or nervous inside, or constantly have a ball in the pit of our stomach. Those are all signs. Energetic signs that our body, that our mind and spirit is giving to us in order for us to distinguish, for us to understand that this is not a healthy relationship. And sometimes what we do is we feel that we are so in love with this person that we continue to forgive, to try, to go back, to try again. If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, your self-esteem might be battered. This relationship might have lasted 6 months or 20 years. But no matter the length, when you're ready, you can decide to step out of that relationship. You can decide that you've learned all you needed to learn with that person. Stepping out of a relationship with a narcissist means getting stronger, means relying on yourself. Now, there is the narcissistic codependent trap that we get into. If you're not familiar with codependency, it's something that is really, really important and that I see more and more of today. And a lot of, especially the younger crowd, don't realize what it is. You might be codependent if people always push on your boundaries, if you're not standing up for yourself, if you always feel like people are demanding things of you and you don't feel strong enough to say, yes, I want that, or no, I don't want that, or please stop. If you have a hard time putting up strong boundaries with one person in particular, you might be just codependent with that person. Codependent people often take their value from someone else. So if I'm with my partner and I'm codependent, that means that my partner is giving me my value in life. He's giving me, or she is giving me my reason for being. And if something's not right with the relationship, it feels like my whole world is coming crashing down. Instead of having a healthy relationship where two healthy people who have great self-esteem come together to share an even happier life, we get into a cycle where we don't feel happy unless we're with someone else. We don't feel happy unless that person is validating us. Essentially, we're receiving external validation. You're not familiar with the concept of validation, it's something that I have another video on it, and it's so important. It's really so important to be able to learn how to validate ourselves. A lot of us grew up with difficult childhoods. We didn't know how to validate ourselves. We didn't know how to give ourselves that love and how to parent that inner child. Maybe we grew up with a parent who was very domineering, who disciplined us very harshly. Maybe we grew up with an absentee parent or two. Maybe we more or less raised ourselves, or an older sibling raised us. Most people's childhood is not ideal. For those of us who've had difficult childhoods, we might find ourselves being codependent because we never had a voice. Maybe our parents were, or our parent was so strong-willed and demanding and so strict with us that we weren't validated, meaning it didn't matter what we felt. It didn't matter what we thought. If you were raised old school like me, then you were taught to be seen and not heard. When we're raised in such a way, then we do look for external validation to make sure that we're doing okay in life, right? But as we get older and we gain knowledge and experience, we have to learn to find that self-love within. And that's one of the reasons why I also do meditations and affirmations for adults. Finding that strength within, finding that self-love, and being able to love ourselves and understanding what that means. Something just clicked for me one day. I had been teaching self-esteem for many years, and they always say that you teach what you need to learn. What clicked for me was that I realized that no one outside of me was going to save me. No other human being was going to step in and make it okay for me, was going to make life magically perfect for me. And I think that's one of the things I looked for all my life. I always thought that there was some magical person who was going to come save me. But that's simply not true. Because just as I am not perfect, you're not perfect either. And nobody's perfect because we're all human. We're all human. So we can't put other people on a pedestal because we all make mistakes. No one can come in and be your perfect savior. We have to be our own saviors. Of course, there's God in the universe and all of our loving spiritual guides and that support. But ultimately, it's ourselves in this human experience who have to understand what self-love is in order to have self-esteem and to validate ourselves and our feelings and our opinions and to understand that we matter. This is where setting healthy boundaries comes in. If someone is constantly making you feel upset or bad or ashamed, or you're constantly walking on eggshells, then your energy is not resonating with that person. Now, if you love this person, you can work to talk this out, to communicate well. But if that other person isn't willing or ready to have that conversation, then that conversation can't be had. And if you have experienced a narcissistic relationship, you've probably also ruminated about that relationship, meaning that you've thought back over and over and over again about the joyful, happy times in the beginning. But those joyful, happy times weren't sustainable because they were too perfect, right? The ideal. So you were presented with something that was so wonderful and so amazing, and yet it didn't stand the test of time. It didn't stand the test of time because it couldn't. Narcissists and codependents work very much together, and codependents also work very much together in a dysfunctional relationship. Codependents often end up in toxic relationships because of their need to constantly keep going back to get that validation and the forgiveness and the starting over, the lack of boundaries, the let's keep on trying. And why do you think you keep on trying? The reason you keep on trying is that ultimately you're trying to gain their love and approval. And every time that they walk away, it's like a drug. You need to get it back. You might be happy that they're away for a little bit because you sense some relief from your anxiety. And then the addiction kicks in. And you crave being with them. You crave that fix. And then you want to try again. But the reality is, even though you might hope that things will be different, you know deep down inside things are only going to be good for a week or two. But they're eventually going to go down the same path and you're going to have the same result because energetically it doesn't work. You end up in tears. You end up upset. You end up anxious. and then you need therapy, or you overthink and you say, what's wrong with me? So this is the trap that we land in. And the way to get out of that is to recognize what it is. And to also recognize that you're not alone. You're really not. So understand what healthy boundaries are. Start working on having healthy boundaries. And if someone is not willing to make the journey with you, if you're currently with someone and they're not willing to allow you to grow and change, that is not your person. It's not your person. We are designed as human beings to constantly be growing and learning and changing. And if we can't do that with the person that we're with, then we're with the wrong person. If you have someone who is playing around with you or pushing your boundaries or not being serious, then it's time to really understand why you're allowing that into your experience. Why are you letting this person play with you? This person is either serious about you and is a serious potential, because there's that potential to love and to be with someone who's healthy, who has a healthy self-esteem, who understands boundaries and respects them, who doesn't walk away because you're not giving in to what they want. Right? Relationships are a compromise, that's true, but you shouldn't be feeling bad all the time. You shouldn't be feeling anxious. And that's what tends to happen when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. So I encourage you today to take a deep look at codependency and ask yourself, could you possibly be codependent? A lot of people say, oh, there's a narcissistic empath connection. But I want to challenge you today to say, is it really that label? Is it really being an empath? Or is it also being codependent? That was really hard for me to actually accept that years ago and thought that I overcame codependency. I really did, because I spent 20 years, well, less than 20 years, but raising my children. And I was so busy, I didn't really have time to think about relationships or codependency or anything like that. But then I realized after my last relationship that, in fact, yes, the codependency was still there. And this time I had to heal it. So understanding codependency, not getting our value from other people, not needing outside validation, but finding that little girl or that little boy within and parenting that inner child with all of your love and being kind to yourself, being patient, understanding that love can be like an addiction sometimes, especially unhealthy, dysfunctional love. It's toxic to us. It's toxic to our minds and our energy, and eventually it'll be toxic to our bodies. So we have to change this. Thank you for listening to me today. I want to do more of these short talks, podcasts, if you will, on my YouTube channel. I think it's very interesting, and there's so many things that I come across in my day, and I think it's important that we talk about these subjects because a lot of us have dealt with them or are dealing with them, and we need to support each other as a community. So much love to you. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.